YouTube, my name is Peter Warkentine. I am a filmmaker based in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and today I am here to talk to you about a plugin for DaVinci Resolve called Dehancer Pro. So the purpose of Dehancer is to take digital footage and make it look like it was shot on film. What I'm going to do in this video is go over some of Dehancer's features, and then at the end of the video I'm going to play some example footage of clips that have Dehancer on them. If you're curious, right now I am running a 2020 M1 Mac Mini, the 256 gig model with 16 gigs of RAM, and all of these clips are on the Mac itself. I'm not running them off an external hard drive. So let's jump right in. Here's a clip I shot for a music video on a Sony A7S II. What I'm going to do is I'm in the color workspace. I'm going to go up to effects, and in the search bar I'm just going to type in Dehancer, and here's Dehancer. I'm going to drag this onto my node, and right away you can see, even with just the default settings, there's quite a bit of a difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to go through and turn off everything, and then I will go back through some of the features and show you what exactly they're doing. Okay, so here's everything turned off. I am not going to go through every single setting and subsetting in Dehancer. I'm just going to focus on the ones that I think are the most useful for filmmakers. So the first thing I want to talk about is this film section. So I'm going to go ahead and enable, and this is one of the coolest features of Dehancer. Over 60 film stocks to choose from. There are some black and white stocks. I've been really enjoying the Kodak Gold and the Kodak XR 100. So what the makers of Dehancer have done is taken all these film stocks and calculated how each of them reacts to color. So we can change the source here of what color space we're using. My timeline is in Rec 709, and it's translating Rec 709 color space into what these film stocks would look like if they were looking at the same thing. What I'm going to do to show off Dehancer a little bit better is I'm going to create a node here that I am just going to bump up the contrast, because right now this was shot in S-Log 2, and I just want it to pop a little bit more. Some of Dehancer's features are more noticeable when you have areas of high contrast, like this bokeh back here. The next thing I want to talk about is film grain. So a lot of other film grain effects, including the built-in one in DaVinci, what they're actually doing is taking a film grain layer and adding it on top of your footage. And using a blending mode, what Dehancer is doing is actually procedurally generating your image using grain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on film grain here, and I'm just going to zoom into this so you can see what's going on. Let's go over to her face. So what you can see is literally the image is made from grain. I'm going to go ahead and disable this and then re-enable it, rather than just being a layer on top. And what that does is it gives us a lot more control over the film grain. So we can change the size. Maybe you are going for more of a 16 mil look rather than 35. You might want to use larger grain. I'm gonna bring that back down. What it also gives you is specific controls over grain in the shadows, in the midtones, and in the highlights. So you can really dial in to get the look you want. The next big feature that I want to talk about is halation. Now, this is a specific phenomenon in film photography that is technically a flaw in film technology, but it has become kind of one of the things that makes footage look like it was shot on film. I'm going to hop over into this other clip here, and what we can see if I go into my Dehancer node, if I turn this off, you can see right here on the bokeh that we get this nice reddish orange glow. You have some ways to dial this in. Source limiter is basically limiting which highlights, which level of white is going to generate this halation. We also can modify the hue to be a little bit more orange on this side, a little bit more red pink on this side. We can also amplify it, which makes the area much larger. We can increase global diffusion, and we can increase the overall impact. So here's the next feature I wanted to talk about. It's bloom. So I'm going to disable bloom and enable it. Right now it's not doing a ton. So let's turn up amplify, and you can see around the highlights we're getting this glow. A couple really interesting features are gate weave and film breath. Film breath is basically emulating the fact that each frame of film stock is reacting slightly differently to the light. So if I turn up color, tonal contrast, and exposure all the way, and I will enable this, and now you can see it already changed the color and the exposure. It's especially evident in these shadow areas, but I will go ahead and play this, and you can see this is obviously an extreme example of what this is doing. But if we bring these back down to their base settings, it's a little bit more subtle. Gate weave is emulating the fact that as film stock passes through the camera, it is moving slightly side to side. And so if I play this back, you can see that the image is kind of jumping around. Now, these two features, I think, especially need to be used subtly. I mean, obviously it depends on the effect you're going for, but I would err on the side of caution with these. And what's so cool about all these functions is that, say, okay, I don't want film breath, I don't want gate weave, I want to keep the bloom and the halation and the film stock emulation, but I don't want grain. Maybe you're making a video for YouTube, you don't want the added grain because YouTube's video compression is just going to destroy that. You can take, normal looking footage. Let's, all I'm going to do to this piece of footage is add Dehancer. And we already have a look. So I'm going to turn off film grain, and we can just play around with the film stock look. I'm going to go back to that Kodak Ektar 100 because I just love the look of that. I'm going to add a node before this, and once again, just add, a little bit more contrast to the image. And we already have an image that is looking really cool. So I could see there being a lot of applications from this. Say you shot a music video, you just want to add a quick look to it. Let's throw Dehancer on this piece of footage and look how good that looks with the grain. Honestly, I would have a hard time telling whether this was actually shot on film or not. I could see this being used in narrative, found footage. I mean, it's just a really exciting, powerful piece of software. If you're interested in checking out Dehancer, you can go to dehancer.com. They have a free trial version you can play around with. You can also buy the full version or just buy, one aspect of it. You can just buy the bloom, just the grain generation, or there's a light version as well. There is also a plugin for Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom if you want to make your photos look more like film. So to end the video, I am going to play some before and after footage of what Dehancer can do. Thanks for watching.